Hello, 8th grade. Greetings from Morristown. I'm going to do a quick video today just to get you all kind of started on some things for the week. We'll have a couple more things that we pick back up on tomorrow in the video that I do for that. But today I'm just going to kind of keep it a little low key as we're all kind of transitioning once again into something different. So I'm going to share my screen with you. We're just going to go over kind of the things that I have in the daily overview that I've posted for today. So if you're online, you'll be able to access that. And then I'll go over the guided notes for fellowship. So let me share my screen with you all. All right, so what we have here, so what I've done is I've just made a day-to-day schedule instead of a weekly schedule for this week. So if you go into Canvas, you can access this list of what we're doing in that weekly overview link, and it also has the link to this video. But if you're watching it, hopefully you found it, or the sub is showing it to you. So the handout that you have for today is the Fellowship of the Ring guided notes for this week. So you don't need that until after you finish this video. But it's for chapters 7 through 10, guided notes for book 2. So that will start with your homework tonight. So after watching the video, you can do vocabulary unit 6, choosing the right word for set A. I don't have that page number right now, but we will check that tomorrow. And then if you'll read and do the guided notes for book 2, chapter 7, and if you don't finish that during the class time, that is homework. And then tomorrow you will have a quiz over book 2, just chapters 1 through 5 that you did last week. So just trying to see, what you've been able to remember and keep up with. So if you'll study your guided notes for that. All right, and then we have for today, so you were to read chapter 6 for today, and these just are some things that I want to go over here. So the fellowship has a new leader now after Gandalf has sacrificed himself, and so Aragorn leads them to Lothlorien, okay? And Lothlorien is the place where Galadriel, another very, very, very wise and very old elf, lives. She and her husband, Celeborn, he lives there as well. Now, there's some racial conflict between elves and dwarves that we see throughout the book, but kind of like with the 12 disciples, you had Matthew the tax collector and you had Simon the zealot. They had to get along. And so you start to see that with Gimli and with Legolas. And so when Gimli's first getting ready to go into even more elf territory, he's very grumpy about it, and there's some conflict there. Now, the fellowship has been followed by, these eyes, these luminescent eyes, and it's the creature Gollum. He's following them, and it's kind of just a little hush-hush thing that, that Frodo has noticed. Haldir is the name of the elf that finds them in the forest. They're found wandering around in the forest, in the woods of Lothlorien, and he leads them into Lorien. And that is where you have that great section where they're saying that Gimli is going to have to go blindfolded because no dwarf has ever seen Lorien, and he is completely indignant and says, he doesn't want to be treated that way. That's too much like a prisoner, and saying they don't trust him. And, Aragorn makes the decision. He's like, you know what? Okay, fine. Suck it up. We'll all go. And Legolas, who has just talked about dwarves being really stubborn, gets all mad and upset, and Aragorn kind of quips back to him like, "Oh, a plague on the stubbornness of elves. You've got an attitude problem too." So they all have to really just kind of set aside their pride and take on some humility in enduring all of this together. Now, in this chapter, on my page 339, Haldir says something that's really, really interesting. So Lothlorien is one of the few places that hasn't really been touched by evil yet, in the way that other places in the world are. And so towards the bottom of that, um, Mary is talking to Haldir, and he's talking about how he wouldn't have the heart to leave his own land of the Shire. So there's just this love of place, this love of home that we see reflected here, by both the hobbits and the elves. And Haldir says, in response to Mary, saying, he wouldn't have the heart to leave his own land. He says, "Not even to see fair Lothlorien," said Haldir. "The world is indeed full of peril, and in it there are many dark places. But still there is much that is fair, and though in all lands love is now mingled with grief, it grows perhaps the greater." So again, we see this concept of light and dark, this concept of hope in the midst of darkness. Right after this, he says, "Some there are coming among us who sing that the shadow will draw back, and peace shall come again. Yet I do not believe that the world about us will ever again be as it was of old, or the light of the sun as it was aforetime. For the elves, I fear, will prove at best a truce, in which they may pass to the sea unhindered and leave Middle Earth forever." So there's some sorrow here. This is that longing for Eden and that mourning of the fall that we see those echoes. "Alas for Lothlorien that I love! It would be a poor life in a land where no malorn grew. But if there are malorn trees beyond the great sea, none have reported it." Um, so then later on 342, um, they enter this circle of white trees. It says they enter the circle of white trees, and as they did so, the south wind blew up Cairn Amroth and sighed among the branches, and Frodo stood up hearing far off great seas upon beaches that had long ago been washed away, and seabirds crying whose race had perished from the earth. So again, there's that longing um, for what has been lost. Further down it says, "Haldir had gone on and was now climbing to the high flat. As Frodo prepared to follow him, he laid his hand upon the tree beside the ladder. Never before had he been so keenly and so suddenly aware of the feel and texture of a tree's skin and of the life within it. He felt a delight in wood and the touch of it, neither as a forester nor as a carpenter. It was the delight of the living tree itself." Again, those echoes of creation of Eden that we see there, those remnants that are preserved in Lorien. So Tolkien really loved the created earth that God had made. He loved a garden. He loved trees. And here, he's not just being like the Lorax. He is talking about things that are beautiful from their being, from their existence that God has given them, not just for what you can do with them. Um, so that delight in the living tree itself, kind of a stop and smell the roses moment, enjoy, um, what God has made in its purest sense. So, and I think when we look at Leaf by Niggle, we'll be able to see a little bit of that as well. So you see that purity and innocence. All right, thank you all very much. I will have a little bit more for you guys tomorrow, but today I'm going to let you go and go ahead and get started on your work and on your reading. So thank you all very much.